my focus on my channel has been putting together these ranking lists, and that's the next one to come out is edge rusher. So I thought today we kind of did this last time. I did it right before I did the interior offensive line. I made an interior offensive line episode, and we talked about some targets on the interior offensive line. We really focused on players that we hadn't discussed that much, just to kind of give us like a little bit of a preview into what the whole thing could kind of look like for this year's draft. And I think that's kind of what I wanted to go for today with the edge rusher position. Now, I labeled this as day 2 and 3 edge targets. And that's where I'm assuming all of these guys are going to fall that I put in this list. Maybe a player that we talk about could get into day 1, but I think all of them, I actually almost could consider this all day 3 targets. I think that's very possible as well with the guys that we're going to talk about. But these are players that all could make sense for lines. They're all guys that I do like in some respect. Okay, maybe I'm a little bit higher or lower depending on who you're asking. But specifically, they're players that maybe we haven't given a ton of attention to. And today I want to give some attention to these guys before we come out with that edge rusher ranking. Now, before we get into any of the 6 players that I have 6 players today that we're going to roll through. Before we get to any of those 6 players, first off, I want to start with one that I actually didn't put a graphic together for. I should have. That's on me. I didn't put a graphic together for it. But I thought about it before I jumped on because I kind of forgot to include him in the list. He's in such a weird area because some people think he could actually be a first-round pick. I think he could be a first-round pick. I've mocked him in the first round. But most people have him kind of as a day 2 guy. And right before I jumped on, I was like, oh, shoot, maybe I should have included him in this list. Like, I'm looking at the title, day 2 and day 3. He should have been on this list. And that's Nick Scorton out of Texas A&M, a player that I do like. I have a pretty high grade on Nick Scorton. And for me, the reason that he kind of popped in my mind before jumping on this show was yesterday, or maybe the last couple of days. I think it was within the last couple of days. I don't know if it was yesterday, but within the last couple of days, just rolling through different players, I went to Nick Scorton randomly. I don't know why I got to this, but I was like, okay, I'm watching Nick Scorton for some reason. I don't know how I got down that path, but I'm like, let me go look at some 2023 Nick Scorton because I know like it was a different outlook for him at that time, right? Obviously, he was super productive with Purdue, right? So really, just saying 2023 to go back before he transferred over to Texas A&M, where he was incredibly productive, and he was a completely different body type. I mean, this guy was playing like a stand-up outside or a stand-up edge rather than playing as a guy that's lining in between the tackles. So he was a completely different guy just going back a year ago, when he was with Purdue, just going back to that whole career there, and he was super productive. And I think when you watch that Nick Scorton, it's in some ways like I didn't walk away thinking like, okay, yeah, that's definitely a first round pick. That's not the feeling that I got from him, but it definitely, I think, opens your mind on the kind of player and what teams could visualize him as. They could say like, man, we could go after this kind of style, right? He doesn't have to be the guy that we saw at Texas A&M specifically. And for me, like I had known about the differences with Nick Scorton, but it was about going back and kind of getting that refresher on it. It was like, let me check this out again. And it's pretty exciting, man. I mean, his ability to move at the size and the way that he packed on that muscle, like it looked incredible. I mean, he filled out his frame incredibly well. He looked like he honestly, like the eye test right away, like not in terms of how he played on the field, but he kind of looked like he was built like I remember when Kayvon Thibodeau was coming out. Like he looked like that kind of build. Now he's a little bit heavier, I would say, back at that time just from watching him, but that's kind of the vibe that I got by just looking at the body type, and it's so different than what you think of him with Texas A&M. So, when we go through this whole thing, I think a lot of us were kind of looking at the recent year, what happened last season, all those things. Some guys have breakout years. Sometimes that, is enough. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it drops guys, all those things. But a player like that, when you're looking at the full package, I think it makes it even more interesting because he's already a super young player. It makes him even more interesting. So I didn't put a graphic together because he was actually going to be on this list because, again, I could see him as a first-round pick. But specifically, that kind of popped in my head as like, that guy might go day 2, and we've talked about him. I've done a video on him, so I don't need to put him on this list. But at the same time, I think the difference of him in 2023 versus 2024 is noticeable, and it's something that's worth checking out. If you never checked any of the Purdue film out with Nick Scorton, you're like, hey, I don't want to see what that looks like. It's a different body type. Looks like a different guy. Again, he's not as like explosive or he's not lightning quick off the ball like I brought up Kayvon. He's not like that just because he had a little bit less weight on, but ultimately he was playing a little bit of a different role, and it's kind of cool to see. Now, that being said, that gets us into this list where we're going to dive into this top 6. Again, it's not really in any particular order. There's just different names that we haven't talked about a ton that I kind of want to roll through here, give some attention to. And then ultimately, when I put the edge rusher ranking together, we're going to have a ton more players. Okay. Some of those guys I just didn't put on this list because I didn't want to put them on this list, but whatever reason that is. Maybe I like them, maybe I didn't like them. And I was like, I don't even want to include talking about them here today. So whatever it is, it's just guys that we haven't talked about a ton. I just decided to throw them on this list. And the first one, I think, is a perfect example to get things really jump started here with a guy that I assume is going to be a day 3 pick. I think physically speaking, he looks looks like a day 3 pick. Athletically speaking, he looks like a day 3 pick to me, but he does have the build of a guy that looks like an NFL edge rusher. And that starts us off right here. We're going to get right into Tyler Barron out of Miami. To me, this is going to be a day 3 pick. I think he's going to go somewhere. I don't know exactly where. He could go a little bit higher in day 3. I could see him going like in round 5, somewhere in that range, 4 or 5. Like he doesn't look like a 7th round pick, and he was too productive to probably be a 7th round pick. Now he's not incredibly young. He's a 5th year player, but ultimately he was incredibly productive this past season for Miami, but he was also productive before he transferred from Tennessee. He spoke a little bit out the combine about like it's really kind of building up Miami and like, man, if you're looking for somewhere to go, like that's not a bad spot to go, basically like that. And he was impressive. Now, athletically, he doesn't pop. When you watch him, he doesn't look the part. He doesn't stand out when you're watching him. But what stands out for me with Tyler Barron ultimately is first off the physical build, which is why I focused on putting his arm length on the screen here. That build at 6'5", basically 260. He looks like an NFL edge rusher. He looks like a 4-3 DN, which could fit the Lions. He also has the arm length that you're looking for as well. Like, this isn't a player that athletically didn't test out well. He tested really well across the board, a 4.62 40, a 1.61 10-yard split. Now, unfortunately, I don't even think that always shows on the field. When I watch him trying to close on the ball, you don't always feel that speed. You feel it in, like, deep pursuit when he's chasing a guy down the field 30 yards. But you don't feel that kind of juice that he showcased within just the way that he ended up testing out. 19 bench press reps, but he did all of those things well. It's ultimately when you watch him on the field, again, it just doesn't pop as much. But what I like about his game, and it's kind of the redeeming quality for me, because I think the play strength is slightly below average, which, again, why I think he's going to be a day 3 guy. But I think that his pass rush skill set, while there could be some limitations to the ceiling here, when you think about getting a pass rusher in day 3, a lot of times you're just betting on something, or maybe it's a small school guy that has a lot of just traits that they don't bring to the table where you're like, all right, we might have to work around trying to make this work. I don't think that's the case with Tyler Barron, which makes him super unique to me in this year's draft, that I don't think there's like you're working around things. You're trying to figure out how we're going to piece this together. How can he find his way on the field? What role can we put him in? Like, no, he can just play defensive end and he can just rush the passer. And to me, he's a slightly above average pass rusher right now. And I think he's one of the smarter pass rushers that I've seen. I mean, he does a really good job of kind of elevating what he's capable of as a rusher, and I think you see it back to the pass rush angles. Like, there's guys that you will watch that take awful angles to the quarterback. You're watching, you're like, well, why is he doing that? Like, he's taking himself out of the play. He's taking himself directly out of the play. Tyler Barron doesn't fit that mold. He actually puts himself into the play. He's very reactive to an offensive tackle sets against him, say they're settling inside. He's going to really kind of close that airspace on the top shoulder to kind of close down to the quarterback to make it a smaller distance to the quarterback. He does those kind of like little things as a pass rusher that stand out, and I think it allows him to have the success that he has. He has some body control within his game where you'll see when he's kind of trying to race upfield or he's trying to split a gap. Well, unfortunately, that doesn't always allow him to continue, and he can't always close in those spots. What he can do is redirect, right? He can kind of stop himself at the top of the rush. He can flip himself around. He kind of has that like really natural spin move, that spin counter that he kind of just jumps off of to end up searching and kind of finding a ball carrier when he's working off, which just allows him to get some effort pressure specifically as well. It's that stop and redirect that he showcases. And to me, it's just all about the angles that he rushes with. He has a little bit of bend. I think it's average, but there's enough bend there to kind of turn the corner at the top of the rush. I don't know about as much dip, but he has a little bit of bend to his game. He's got a little change of direction at the top of the rush. There's just some subtle nuances. You think about like savvy, wide receivers. That's kind of the vibe that I get when I watch Tyler Barron. There's some savviness here in ways to win. I think that the ceiling is probably going to be ultimately pretty darn limited. But at the same time, if you're getting an edge rusher in day 3 and you're like, can he make the team? Tyler Barron, I think, has an opportunity to make a team. And that's kind of the starting point, I think, for him is like, can he make the team? Can he find a way into the rotation? That'll be the next step. We'll see. But I think ultimately he has a skill set that looks like a guy that could make it onto a 53-man roster. Probably the back end early for sure, but he could make it onto a 53-man roster. And again, he has all the measurements that would tell you like, okay, this isn't, we're not going after an exception here. Like this player, he can play. And at the same time, he's got all the testing and maybe the tools more so than what we've even seen, because you'll see some flashes where you'll see some explosion off the ball. It looks fine. I think he's average off the ball. I think his first step's pretty darn average when I watch him, which is, again, just the issues of those things don't show up. He's not a pure speed rusher, right? He doesn't race around the edge, right? He's not that threatening. But ultimately, to me, he's a pretty sound rusher. He has a really good entry into blocks. He does all the little things kind of well, and that leads to success for Tyler Barron. So he comes in, gets this thing started, a guy that I don't think we've talked about him at all. I remember it was like months ago that I was like, I'm checking out Tyler Barron. And he doesn't pop. You kind of have to just continue to watch and find the little things that he does and find why he was so productive. And the numbers kind of say it all. I mean, look at the run stop rates, 9%, right? 9% is great. Now he plays a little bit out of gaps. He kind of does his own thing, but he finds the ball well. You know, if you put him in a disciplined spot where he's got to deal with the mesh point, quarterback, running back, you got to take one of the two, and he's disciplined. He'll dial himself down, right? He'll make a stop. He does those little things well, which leads to stops. He also can have a little bit of coverage flexibility. Again, probably not his best spot, but there's flexibility there. You can stand him up. You can put him into coverage. I've seen him chase running backs, down the sideline. So he can do those little things. He's pretty well rounded. I just don't know that he's great in any area. I don't know if he's good in any area, to be honest, but enough to make a team, no question. Tyler Barron, he comes in on this list. All right, next one is someone that I don't think we've talked about a ton, but he has been discussed aplenty within kind of Lion circles, which makes this perfect. And I'm pumped for this next guy. I'm pumped to put this next guy on this list because ultimately when we put these edge rusher rankings together, which is going to be soon, hopefully, when I ultimately drop that, I think this player is going to be a lot higher than I would have expected coming into this. And I think then most people will expect when they see the list. But if you're watching this, and I guess not, because now I've just spoiled that for you. And that is, let's put it on the screen right here. That's going to be Q Robinson. Now, it's actually like Quadarius Robinson. I think it's like Quadarius. I don't know. It's one of the two. Robinson, it's not just Q Robinson, but I guess that's for short. Just kind of makes it easier. I don't know. I actually don't know why that's his nickname, to be honest. But I was reading up on some things today about kind of the leadership qualities, and I teams buy into that for sure, right? There's been a lot of leadership notes. There's actually an article that I found today talking about his leadership, right? Crediting like, oh man, like they were proud of him and those kind of things that he did. And he was just a good example for Alabama. And he's got a really interesting path because he hasn't played many snaps. Like, it's just straight as that. This guy hasn't played a lot of football with Alabama. He's been there. He just hasn't played a lot of football. Hasn't been able to find his way onto the field consistently. Then this last season, he's kind of getting onto the field. He's still a very rotational piece. But then ultimately, he has an injury that knocks him out for the rest of the season. I believe it was an elbow injury that knocked him out for the rest of the year. So he just doesn't play a lot. He had like under 200 snaps this past season, and that was the most snaps we had seen him play. The guy hasn't played a lot of football. But that being said, when he's on the field, and this is where you get to the day 2, day 3 guys, you're betting on flashes. Here's the difference with Robinson, and this is what excites me, and this is why he's going to be pretty darn high on my list. I expect when that list comes out. I guess it just depends on what you're expecting, but I expect it to be pretty high for me because it's not that he's just flashing. It's not that I'm like, oh, look at that trait that he brings to the table. Like, those definitely show up, right? There are some things here where you're like, well, wait a minute. That kind of first step is pretty nasty. This dude's incredibly twitchy. Then you'll also see, of course, the examples where it's like, okay, he played a lot of off-ball to get things started, but as the season rolled along, of course, until the injury, then he starts kicking down to the line of scrimmage and just let him rush the passer. But when he is just rushing the passer, you start to buy into, like, the examples where I watch him go beat Will Campbell one-on-one, and it was a nasty inside move, and it was a pretty win. And it's like, okay, there's a very limited sample size here. I think it was actually an LSU game that he ended up getting injured, and we didn't see him after that game. But during that game, when he was on the field, he ends up beating Will Campbell one-on-one on the inside move. And he had those flashes throughout the season. So it wasn't just the traits, it was also who he was doing it against, the competition that he was doing against, where you step back and you're like, okay, wait, there's actually something here. And it wouldn't surprise me at all when we hear the leadership things, when you think about the very limited snaps, and teams are going to be like, okay, I'm not really sure what I'm getting here, right? You look at his build, he's listed at 6'5", 240 pounds. He's super long, but he's also just not built like heavy like an edge rusher. But he's also been kind of an off-ball that hasn't seen the field. And then it was like, they just kind of leaned into this, letting him rush the passer. So at the next level, teams could view flexibility here. They could see that, right? He's kind of slippery at the second level. He's a little bit twitchy. He's a little sudden, kind of settles in under blocks at the next level. But it's what he does as a pass rusher that gets you excited. And at first I was watching like, okay, I see that he's can rush the passer, but that's not what he's doing. But then the more you watch, you're like, oh, wait a minute. I can understand why people list him as an edge rusher. I got it. It makes sense. It was an elbow injury, by the way. I just saw it right here. The numbers, of course, are fantastic. There's a special teams upside that you feel is going to carry along with him as well. Look, there's areas that I think need work. I think his hand usage is below average, and it's hard to buy into some of these things. You're like, I just wasn't that many snaps. I don't really know what I'm getting here, especially if you just consider him an edge, and then you take into size into consideration. But the first step for me was very good. I thought he had a strong first step, man. I mean, there was some twitch off the ball. There was some real juice. I mean, it was threatening. This guy could really speed up around the arc. He could win as a pure speed rusher. That got you excited. Then, of course, when you watch him in coverage, you just see the fluidity. You put him in coverage and he's so fluid, change of direction, right? Sliding underneath routes, sliding underneath seams, getting out into the flats. He does those things so fluidly. So you're thinking about kind of the versatility. I think about like a Dallas Turner, the guys that were in front of him at Alabama, having that flexibility to drop into coverage, feel natural. Well, that was kind of his sting until it was like, let's just rush the passer. And he has that. Like, he was super fluid when dropping into space. So, I mean, the team could still view him as an off ball guy because of the lengths and because of just the traits that he brings, because of his build. But when he's rushing the passer is where you get excited. As a pass rusher, I think he's slightly above average already. I mean, again, a lot of things need to be connected. There's a lot of aspects that feel like we're not really tapping into, a lot of potential things that he could bring to the table, but he's so sudden as a pass rusher. He's got some looseness. There's a lot of knocks that I had for him as a pass rusher, specifically a lot of things that kind of came into play here for me. Kind of the stop start ability, the wide pass rush entry, which I thought would get him into some problems, kind of having a counter move, like guys would jump set him, it would just take him off his entire pass rush plans. Like, I don't think he has an actual plan to kind of deal with that a little bit. He'd lose control. You see him try to bend at the top of the rush and he'd kind of just fall on his face. So you got like things like that, but the agility is a plus. It is the traits, but it's traits with also flashes against really good competition. And that's what gets you excited about Robinson. So I expect him to be pretty high. Again, you're betting on things that you don't totally know. But at the same time, if you're grading on flashes, you're going to love this piece. And for me, I'm really excited about what this could be. And especially when we talk about the Lions, you think about the flexibility, think about what Derek Barnes can bring. I mean, I just imagine a guy like this being able to play the Barnes role. Like, I don't doubt that he could settle in, potentially set the edge for us a little bit, because what he does is he creates force through the hips on entry, which could allow him to sit down a little bit. Now, he doesn't, to me, play with a ton of power through the ground. He also can be a little bit flimsy when you're trying to set the edge. So maybe you want to bulk him up a little bit, try to build up that base a little bit more. But I think of a guy that could play that role. I think about that, he could settle down in that role, but then also at the same time, like, he's going to bring a lot more juice as a rusher, but he's still so fluid in coverage. Like the Jihad Campbell's that gets a lot of buzz because of what he can be as a rusher, where I don't buy into that as much. I think that he's an off-ball guy that really works well in coverage. That guy's getting a lot of buzz right now. A lot of people are like, yo, look at him as a pass rusher. Now he's got the labrum thing, so we'll see where he ends up going. But I didn't think he was that great of a pass rusher. I understand it's in the background. I just don't think he was that great of it. That's what he came out of high school to be. But I think his best is in coverage. Like let that guy be awesome in coverage, and then that'll just kind of be a supplementary aspect. But that guy gets a lot of buzz because of that flexibility. A lot of people hype up the Jalen Walker flexibility. Again, that's one of those where I'm like, okay, I see the flexibility, but he's a big-time passer. He's about an elite pass rusher for me. That's why I'm drafting him. I get the flexibility. That's cool, but I'm not drafting him because, he's playing a different spot. I'm drafting him because he can get after it. And I think that Robinson should be potentially thrown into that conversation. It's just that he hasn't had a lot of snaps and he kind of gets overlooked. He should be thrown into that conversation because he has that flexibility. If that's what we want to praise, he has that. But to me, I'm drafting him because this dude can get after the quarterback. So it's kind of the same way that I look at it. That's why he's included on this list, and that's why he's going to be pretty high on my list. Because I want guys that I can find something to just pinpoint. Be like, that's why I got him. You know what I mean? Like, it's fun to be like, all right, we could play him here, here, and here. But at the same time, especially the high, like if you're later in the draft, I get it. You're finding flexibility, guys that can find a way on the field, guys that can add depth to different spots. Offensive lineman versatility is a little bit different, but if you add that, it makes it easier to make the roster because you can play multiple positions. But ultimately, if there's not a spot that I feel good about, it's hard for me to draft the guy. It's hard for me to like, yeah, draft that dude because, well, where are we going to put him? Well, he could go here. Okay, but what's his best? Well, if we can't answer that, I don't know. Robinson can get after it. So that's why he's on this list. And I'm excited to see where he ends up because I don't know where he's going to end up on my list, but I'm excited to see where that ends up happening. Okay, let's keep it moving. Let's go to one that I would say I was a little bit lower on than maybe, I don't know, consensus. I don't know, but we haven't talked about him much. So I wanted to put him on this list, just give him a little bit of attention here because he is I don't think he's going to be a day 2 pick. I think he'll also be day 3. I think Robinson could have a case for late day 2. I think this next player will also be day 3. Maybe he's day 2. I mean, he's productive enough. He's got the build for it, but I think he's a day 3 pick. But next up, that's going to be, and let me throw it on the screen, Ashton Gillotte. I think that's how you say his name. I don't know. I feel like I'm messing this up every time I say it. The length doesn't help him here. Sub 31-inch arms. Really, that doesn't help. It's really small hands, which really show. I mean, you can see on his picture how small his hands are, right? That's a noticeable aspect. But what he reminds me of, and I hate to do this. I hate to do this because it feels like when this happens, this is always my comp. But truly, 2 things came to mind when I was watching him. First off, in terms of his physical build, he reminded me of Tuli Tuipulotu. And I was a big Tuli guy coming out. I love Tuli. Now, I don't like Ashton Gillotte like I like Tuli, but in terms of the way they're built, like I got vibes of that. I'm like, all right, he's got a pretty thick lower body. You can see it. He carries his weight really well. He's a good mover. He's agile. He's kind of smooth. I'm like, I can see some of that. And then also, of course, you get a guy like Jonah Ellis who gets drafted by Denver and the agility that he carries. He plays really low to the ground. And I think of a player like that could be in that role where you're like, well, he actually could probably stand up in coverage. Like he's athletic enough to do it, but he's pretty big. Like he packs on the weight pretty well. So I think of a guy like that as well when I think about comps for this player. For me, ultimately, there's not a lot of standout traits for his game, which is kind of the biggest problem outside of the agility. I think he's a very agile player, which is good. I mean, it helps. It rounds out his game pretty darn well. To me, he's a smooth glider across the field. He's got short area quickness, which you'll see it, whether that's you put him on the interior, put him against the guard. He can kind of just find a little bit of an edge. He'll find a little bit of a crease because he has some of that short area movement skills specifically. He's very efficient with some of his movement as well. He's got that redirect quickness, which is very good. Like that's the category I like him. Everything else is pretty average for me. Outside of probably the first step and play strength, those things I think you could give him notch above. I would like to see him be more dominant as like a pocket collapser. Like if I felt that he was a more dominant pocket collapser, he'd probably jump way higher for me because a lot of the other things I buy into. I buy into the flexibility. I buy into the toughness, the effort that he plays with. I just don't buy into kind of the being a overwhelming presence at the point of attack. And to me, that's why he gets a little bit lower, especially for his build. I would like to see that because he plays with some bend at the point of attack. You'll see that, right? He can play with some upfield power, and you'll see this when he's working downhill. Maybe it's a zone scheme. He's on the backside, and he can just kind of drive a tight end backwards. You'll see things like that kind of pop up. But overall, and he takes on blocks really well. He's pretty stout. He gets himself really wide. He's really stout in the lower body. He doesn't really get moved off the spot that often, but he just doesn't, he's not overwhelming, right? The bull rush leg drive doesn't pop that much. He doesn't really, to me, reset his base that well on the line of scrimmage. There's just little issues that I have with him. But ultimately, it's a lot of kind of just average grades for me across the board. But that also is something that's worth monitoring in day 3, right? A player that has the physical build, wish you had a little more length, but has a skill set to be versatile, has the special teams ability as well because of some of the skill set that he brings. And ultimately, he has enough of the traits well-roundedness to, I think for sure, like I almost feel more comfortable. I would say this. I'd feel more comfortable with Ashton sticking on a team probably than I would Tyler Barron. Like, I think Ashton could definitely stick on a team. My concern would be in the long run, like, what are we tapping into? How high can I actually push the ceiling? And what are we going to get to with the player specifically? Because I think he's an average pass rusher right now. I love the production. I just think he's average in that category as a whole. He gets a little bit outreach. The length becomes an issue. But he's one of those guys, man. He doesn't have to play with a lot of shake for me or kind of that run to pass transition. Like, it's just things like that. But ultimately, I think that he's a guy that we haven't talked about. He is productive. He's a day 3 pick for me. But I mean, if you end up with that guy beyond round 5, I think you're feeling fantastic. I don't think you'll get him there, but if you somehow did, you'd feel fantastic. If you got him in 4 or 5, I think you'd feel like, all right, this is probably about right. This is probably about right, and we'll see, what we can tap into here. But you're going to feel pretty good that he's going to make the roster. And again, when we're talking day 3 guys, that's kind of the starting point. He's going to make the roster. At least year 1, I would believe. We'll see beyond that, but I think year 1 he's going to be on somebody's roster. Okay. We got a couple of other guys to get through here. I'll go through these a little bit faster just for time reasons because some of these we have talked about a little bit, all right? So I am cheating a little bit when I say that we haven't talked about some of these guys. Some of them we have talked a little bit. Maybe it was because, maybe they were in a mock draft recently. One of these guys were in a mock draft recently, so that's why he's on this list. And let's go, I guess we'll go right to that player next up. Let's just jump over there. That is going to be David Walker out of Central Arkansas. So this is one that I was kind of I brought up, but it wasn't like a specific thing for him. But I brought up, in a mock, we took him in our latest mock draft that we did. It was one of our live mocks. We took David Walker towards the end. I also kind of mentioned him when we were doing a video on, the potential of signing the edge rusher from Chicago. I kind of threw his name in the mix as well. And that was someone that was on my mind a little bit when kind of watching or making that video was a David Walker potential type, a later round pick, small school, very productive at that small school, doesn't have the length, has kind of an awkward build. He's very stout, low to the ground, right? Not that tall. You got some of those issues with him, but he was productive. Ultimately, he got after the quarterback. And obviously you immediately think of a guy like James Houston, though I think their play style is a little bit different. It doesn't make me think of James Houston when I watch him outside of him just doing a lot of good things against smaller school opponents for the most part. But David Walker is ultimately a player that I do like, and I do think that especially, just depending on how it goes, like even if we don't end up signing Chicago's edge rusher, let's say the Lions wanted to double dip, like this would be the kind of player that I think you could definitely double dip with, right? Because this is truly get after the quarterback type of piece. That's what David Walker is going to bring to the table. He's going to allow you to double dip, and that's why I kind of throw him in this mix. So we've talked about him a little bit, kind of like in passing a little bit, but we really haven't focused on this player. He'll get more of a focus, I think, ultimately when we do our rankings because he'll probably be a little bit higher than most. But in a lot of ways, my grades were kind of similar to Ashton Gillotte in terms of just how I graded a lot of his critical factors. They were kind of similar across the board. Only difference is I think he plays a little more power, which is interesting because he's smaller. I think he brings a little more power to the table, but similar. Smaller arms, smaller hands, a little bit bigger than Ashton's. But I think he plays a little more power. I think it's actually good for him. And I think you could give him the nod as a pass rusher as well. well, but his ability to play with some power is good. And you'll see he'll run his legs through contact. He doesn't have the best, I think, speed to power build up, unfortunately, but it's the way he kind of fires his feet through finishing opportunities. It actually shows up to me more so against a run than anything. He's got a jolting upper body. The way that he translates his power on the field is better. It shows more, and that's ultimately why I have to give him the nod in this spot, even though it's, smaller competition usually, but I would actually give him the nod in this spot. So Dave Walker's a guy that I think it'd be a purple double dip candidate if you just wanted a pure rusher. I don't think it's a bad option because I think he can get after it. I don't think he's elite here. I don't think you're like, oh man, hey, he might not be big, but dude, this guy's going to be special. I don't get that vibe. But again, making the roster, yes. Day 3 pick, probably. And also, this could be a player that cracks rotation year 1. I could see him actually cracking a rotation. I think he's high enough league graded where he could crack a rotation year 1. He could get snaps on the field. He could find the field year 1, which is not easy to do at Central Arkansas, but I think he could do it. So that's why I have David Walker on this list. We'll give more attention as we get closer to the draft. All right, 2 more guys. Just want to touch on these very quickly. Some guys, we've touched on them before, but again, we haven't really put an emphasis on these 2, but at the same time, not only have we not really put an emphasis on these guys, but it's been a minute. It's been a minute since we talked about these 2 guys, really going back to the dang Senior Bowl. But today we're going to give them some more attention. Let's start off first off with Savon Jones out of LSU. Savon Jones was immediate. Savon Jones immediately is going to grab your attention because he looks like what he looks like on the screen. This is a big dude, man. He looks like a brick wall. He reminds you of Josh Paschal when he's just standing. He doesn't get moved. The guy's literally walking into a wall. It's okay, this is a big guy. And he's listed at 6'5", 280 pounds. Some list him, closer to 290 plus arm length, 33.5 inches. Nice as well. He tested out really explosive as a player. That shows up on the field. He's played inside, outside, kind of like a big D end. He's going to probably translate as a big D end at the next level. So when you think about the Lions and kind of what they typically go after, if you said, hey, Lions drafted Savon and put him opposite of Hutch, yeah, that makes some sense to me. It's weird because his play style is not always what you would expect. To me, he doesn't always feel like just a pocket collapser, he's just driving guys back. That's his thing. But it also kind of makes you excited because you're like, well, maybe we can get there. But he's a pretty good athlete. He's explosive. He's got some agility to his game, right? He's got some real control over his footwork where guys that are smaller don't feel like they have that as much, but he does, right? You'll see some of the skip steps, which look pretty fluid as a mover. He can make himself pretty slippery. He can get small as a pass rusher. He's got the power at the point of attack to kind of just settle in and hold his ground. Now, I would like to see him kind of clear out his edge a little bit more, just be more consistent, be more polished. But this is the kind of guy that for the Lions, say he went day 3, it'd be the perfect piece to kind of put behind the Marcus Davenports, the Josh Paschals, the Levi Onwuzurike's. It'd be a good piece to just kind of settle in behind those and just be like, okay, we don't need the immediate contribution. And if you can get him in a spot where you don't need that immediate contribution, I think that's probably the best spot for Savon as you go forward. And then ultimately you hope for that next step, because I think there are steps that need to be taken here. But there's a lot of things that he brings that kind of open up the mind of well, we could get to all these different things as a rusher. You can do a lot more things than you'd expect. And at worst, he could be a sub-package rusher. You could find a spot for him, put him on the inside, let him get after it. He just missed too many tackles right now. It's a lot of the little things that aren't as clean as you would like to see. But Savon's a really fun player to watch. So he comes in next. And then we wrap this thing up with the Michigan man, Josiah Stewart. Oh, man, this is, it had to be on the list. I don't know if we're going to do more of these lists over here on BR. So I know we have the rankings coming out, and he'll be on that. But, man, Josiah Stewart's got to be on this list, man. I love me some Josiah Stewart. The guy is an awesome pass rusher, and I feel like he kind of takes the idea of, a designated pass rusher to the next level. It's all right, we want a pass rusher. That's the main focus of what we're drafting here. He can be undersized. Josiah Stewart's probably your guy, right? Because he is really good at getting after the passer. And to me, he can play the run. I don't think he's horrible against the run. I don't think he's that's his thing at the next level. I think there's going to be concerns, but he's not horrible against the run. His length is also something that I can buy into a little bit more as well. I think he plays with better length specifically. He's a closer as a pass rusher. He shows hand use, very fast hands. He's got a smooth club move that he gets to. The guy's got, to me though, as a run defender, he's got a strong base. He can consistently shed blocks. There's issues that you have, creating heavy hands, or, some people will question that kind of the entry points as well. Ducking his head for me. But ultimately, this player gets after, dude. He's going to get after. He's so productive. He plays mismatch offensive tackles. He just lights those guys up. He's going to immediately make his presence felt. He'll probably, I don't know, honestly, where he's going to go. I would consider him more of a day 2 guy. I think he's a day 2 pick. If he went day 3, I think someone's going to be really happy with the value because they'll get immediate production from him. And, you can question the upside a little bit here, but it just kind of depends on your team's situation. And I think for the line situation specifically, this is a year that you can take a Josiah Stewart and feel pretty good about it. You can take a player like this, but he's just going to get after it. And you could, depending on the game, he could be your second best pass rusher on the field, and you'd feel pretty good about that. You'd be like, that wouldn't surprise you if I told you week 7 in the season, the Lions are fully healthy, which, that would actually surprise you. But he was the second best pass rusher on the field. You'd be like, yeah, that makes some sense. He's that good as a pass rusher. So to me, Josiah Stewart just knows how to win. This guy, I mean, I would love to have Josiah Stewart on the Lions. And that wraps up this list of going through some day 2 and day 3 options, guys that we haven't given that much attention to. Of course, there are more names out there. There are other guys that I like, some that I don't like that I didn't include today. Even these guys, some of these are my favorite, right? But they're guys that we haven't really given that much attention to. And today I kind of did before we get to the final and ultimate rankings of this edge rusher position, which is hopefully coming out very soon here. I feel pretty close. I'm pretty close to having this thing wrapped up. I'm just not all the way there yet, but we're pretty close. But we're almost there. So with that, I'm going to leave it there. We'll be back next week, Monday, 6 p.m. Eastern time, same time. Probably getting back to the mock draft swing of things. Like we'll kind of see how that plays out. But I know we got to get back to doing these mocks. Just we've done a lot of mocks over the last few weeks. So I was like, all right, we can kind of hold on. I don't need do another mock draft. I think I'm overwhelming people with the mock draft. So maybe I'll calm down for a second. We'll get back to that as we kind of lay out these players. But until then, I appreciate y'all for joining me here on Bleacher Report, and I'll see you then. Enjoy your weekend. Go Lions, and I'm out. Chat over here on YouTube. We just wrapped this thing up. Hey, so this was it was 6 players, but it was actually 7. DT Fan Man, I'm a little disappointed that you joined. I think you joined a little late. I don't know. I didn't see the chat, if I'm being honest with you. But I did have, I brought up Nick Scorton at the beginning. I didn't have a graphic for him, but I thought it was a little bit of an interesting nugget to add at the beginning because to me, Nick Scorton specifically, going back watching his 2023, which I did over the last few days, I still think he has a case for back in round 1. I do. I've mocked him there, not to the Lions specifically, but I mocked him at 20. I think that's as high as I mocked him. I think he's got a case for back in round 1, but I think when you put the full package together, and I do believe that from the media, because all this is media perspective, the media perspective is a lot of times very recent. When you put the package together of Purdue plus A&M, and you see not even like what he did, because again, when I watch 2023 or even, go further beyond that, you can. But specifically for me, 2023, I don't see him and saying like, oh, that's the first round pick. That's the guy that should go round 1. But instead I see like, oh, this is a very different body type. And when you see that different body type, you see what that could look like. I think it makes you a little excited because you're like, well, wait a minute. We could actually have this piece. He's not just that piece. He could also be this kind of piece for us as well. A stand-up edge rusher, right? Not as much of living between the tackles. Like he doesn't have to be this guy. He's been able to be both. And he fills out really well. Like when that guy wants to play that role, man, he could put on that weight really well. He could be a power piece. So again, he didn't pop as much. Like I didn't think of like a first round piece when I was watching him like that. But what I did think when I was watching him like that was like, this makes it really interesting. This makes it really interesting when you think about what this could turn into. When you think about him getting first round, I mean, it's a very clumped up edge rusher. You're telling me someone couldn't bet on that guy over James Pierce? I think it's possible. I think there's a few that we feel really. You tell me someone could take him over Mike Green? I'd be a little surprised, but I think it's on the table. So I think it's interesting. And that's actually the guy he looks like, right? He looks like George Karlaftis. I mean, he's built like George Karlaftis, which makes sense because that's kind of the build they're looking for. But for me, Scorton was built like George Karlaftis. That's what he looked like on the field, playing stand up like he did. So, and we know Karlaftis fell, right? I mean, I don't want to say he fell, but he went back in the first round. So it wasn't like it was and Karlaftis had a heck of a career, but he went back in the first round. And again, I think Scorton, if I was betting money, I'd bet he goes round 2. I wouldn't bet on him round 1 because even then he didn't look like elite, dynamic, and all those kind of things. But I think that's just a different way to kind of put him in perspective of what you could be looking for. It only takes one, and one team could buy into that. Kind of though, the UCLA got on this list too. He will be on. He'll definitely be on the rankings. You're thinking of Oladejo. I thought we had talked about Oladejo a solid amount, so I didn't want to throw him on this list because I feel like he's been getting a pretty good amount of attention. And my thought process putting this together was like, I'm gonna like throw names here that I feel like we haven't discussed or I haven't heard of really that much for the Lions. I know Josiah Stewart probably isn't the best example of that, but I wanted to put a 6th on here kind of just to wrap it up. And plus, I'm just a big Josiah Stewart guy, so I thought he'd wrap it up well. But I thought the other 5, like, y'all had brought up Q Robinson. We haven't talked about him a lot, but I thought the other 5 were kind of like sliding like completely under the radar, at least from a Lions perspective. Like, I don't really see those names tied to the Lions very much. I think they're all interesting options. I think they all could have a case to fit somehow. You could make it work. I just think that's what I was going for specifically. I know Oladejo's been getting a lot of buzz recently. I mean, shoot, to be honest, I don't even know if he'd fit day 2 or day 3 now. If he's going round 1, I don't I don't know if he'd work. I don't know if he'd work, man, but he'll be on the list. Also, he's the guy that I kind of want to save too. I kind of want to save him for the rankings because I think he's one of those players that are like ranking wise will be very, I won't say subjective because that is what it is, but it's like he'll be very polarizing. So when I put him in the rankings wherever I decide to put him, like that'll kind of make it that could be unique. So I kind of want to like leave that and not like get too far into like, oh man, I love this dude or I buy it or I don't buy it, like that kind of thing. I don't want to get there yet. I want to kind of like let that list be the thing, and then we'll see where he ends up falling. And then I'll make like a graphic of it and post it or something. Scorton stayed at Purdue. Would Nick today be higher value than Karlaftis? See, and it's interesting, man. I honestly I don't know. I mean, I think when you package the fact that he's so young, I think that makes it super interesting, man. I don't know. That's where I wonder, right? Like I think it could be a value to look at and be like, well, yeah, I mean, but he was able to play really well inside the tackle too. Like he kind of do both. And honestly, it's not like I don't understand him playing that role. Because like I said, stand up edge, he can do it. I'm not gonna say he looked so amazing there. It was like, oh, why did they change what he was doing? Like I can understand. I can understand why, based on even what he looked like when he was closer to 260 with Purdue. Why I was like, yeah, he might be really good doing this though for us. Like I can get that. I can get behind that. So I don't know. I don't know what that's gonna do for him, but like I say, it only takes one. I mean, it could be the Lions. It could be the Lions that feel like, hey, that flexibility, that's what we're after, right? Maybe it is the Lions that helps him. I just think that Karlaftis was so productive that I don't know. I don't know, right? I don't know that does help him. I don't know that it does help him if he stays at Purdue. I think it helps him that he left. I would think it helps him that he left and that he was still very productive. In my opinion, that helps. Because I was actually as in from an outside looking in, more excited about the idea of, well, hey man, this guy playing what he looked like at Purdue, like that actually excited me more about the prospect more than the other way around. Like if I never knew that he played there, I would have felt how I felt about him. But knowing that, it actually kind of excites me because it adds another element to it. It's like, wait a minute, hold up, wait a minute. You know what I mean? So when you scout prospect, you only watch film. That's pretty much all I do. That's pretty much all I do is watch players. I mean, if I find like cool articles or something, maybe I'll like read up on it. Be like, all right, that's kind of interesting. Or if there's something like major, like there's major storylines around a guy. But outside of that, it's pretty much all I do. Now, like I'll watch like Senior Bowl stuff. I was there, so I haven't like watched as much this year, to be honest with you. In the past, I'd watch more, but I also have bad luck watching Senior Bowl. I feel like when I watch Senior Bowl and I like somebody, it just doesn't work. So I'm trying not to like buy into that too much. So that's mainly what it is. I also don't really focus on pro days outside the numbers. Like if I look at the numbers, I will I'll note the numbers down, like the measurements, official measurements on the top when I'm done. But I don't watch them, to be honest with you. I don't really like whatever I saw during the combine, bam, bam, that's what it was. But outside of that, I don't really pay attention to any of that stuff. Derek Harmon had a visit with the Lions. Hey, as he should. All right, as he should. Dude's a terrific player. Dude is round one worthy. Dude's good. There's buzz for Tyleik Williams. There's buzz for some of these other dudes, and it's like, bro, Derek Harmon's better. Like Derek Harmon's a heck of a player, man. There's not a lot of weaknesses in Derek Harmon's game, as he should, bro. Speaking about guys that, hey, now right, maybe a different because he broke out when he went to Oregon, but like so maybe so how does that affect Scorton versus a guy like Derek Harmon? It definitely helps Harmon because Harmon's breakout like attitude, like, oh man, this dude can get after it. And he's another guy where you like wonder about the ceiling as a rusher, but he's very good. Like he's a very good rusher. So at worst, you're like, all right, well, we'll see how high the ceiling gets, but he's at least going to add an element there. He's going to add juice there. Could he be a 5 sack a season guy? Like I could see that. I could see him getting 5 sacks in a season. Does he get 8? Probably not. Is he a Sue type rookie season? I don't see that. But could he get to 5, 4, 5? Like, yeah, I could see him being pretty consistent around that mark. I think he's good enough to get there. He'll probably be more rotational early, but I could see that. So Barron Sorrell is he'll be on the list too. I'm a little bit lower personally right now. I don't think he plays with enough physicality for me, which is a problem, especially for the Lions. I like his hand usage a lot, though. I think that's what's going to help him is that I think he's a pretty technically sound rusher, which will help. I'm just not as high on kind of like what the eventually could turn into for him specifically. That's kind of where my lowerness comes from with him. I just don't feel that as much. I don't feel as much juice when I watch him specifically, but I do think that he's a lot. He's pretty technically sound, which obviously helps because that allowed him to be productive. Maxwell Hairston got a visit. That hey, see, now that's what I'm talking about, okay? Because we did mock Maxwell Hairston, so good. I'm glad. I'm glad. Now that pick doesn't look crazy. See, look, people were like, "Whoa, what are we doing?" Now it looks legit. Now it looks legit. Let it happen. What are your thoughts on Landon Jackson? I like Landon Jackson. Um, I've said it before. I have a video on Landon Jackson, so I would check that out because I obviously get my full takes there. I like Landon Jackson. He had a weird path too, transferring out from LSU. We've seen guys do that. And it's not always a bad thing, transferring out, getting your opportunity, taking advantage of the opportunity. I think the more I've heard of Landon Jackson recently tells me that I'm lower on Landon than others. I think that's kind of the boat that we're in. I didn't realize that. I thought I was high on Landon Jackson when I did the video on him. And then I hear kind of the responses now, it feels like there's a lot more people that believe that Landon's better than I think that Landon Jackson is. That said, though, I think that he is pretty open to fitting anywhere. Like, I think most teams could find a spot for him. I think most teams were going to be pretty darn happy with what they get. The ceiling, again, is a question with him. But for me, I also think that I think I have a lower floor than what people do. I think that's the big thing there. I think people I think the sounds coming from Landon Jackson right now are he's better right now than what I think that Landon Jackson is right now. Right, I think he's slightly above average in explosiveness. I think his play strength slightly above average, but he just doesn't feel dominant in any category. To me, he's a good rusher. I think he's elite there. I think he's pretty well rounded. He's pretty well rounded. Right, I had a solid grade on him, but like again, if I put him next to Jack, so I have Jack Sawyer above him. Now, some people might buy into Landon Jackson because you get back to testing as well. Like Landon Jackson tested like freakishly, and that helps him. I think he had like over 17 miles per hour or something. It was like this dude put it together. So when you talk about the athletic traits, he put it together. So people might buy into that a little bit more and be like, "Yo, but we're getting more juice here. There could be more to tap into with this guy." And you're gonna love the way that he plays, right? He's tough. He's smart. He's a very smart player. So you're gonna get all of those things. So some team could lean that direction because of what they think it gets to, and that would make sense to me. That would make sense to me. I just don't have him. I just don't have him as I think as high as what the conversations are right now. Could he go round two though? I think he can go round two. I just push him towards the back end of round two. Um, I don't know if I take him in round two, to be honest, because like there's a lot of guys that I'd probably have above him. So I probably wouldn't have him as round two pick, but I think he'll probably go round two. More I watch James Pierce, I think he has potential to be our pick. More he needs to wait, I read that so bad. The more I watch James Pierce, I really think he has a potential to be our pick. He just needs James Pierce is awesome. I think James Pierce is an amazing player. It's all the off the field stuff for me. Like that's the only thing. And I don't really know anything on that. Like as a player, if we take James Pierce, I'd be super happy. I'd be super happy with James Pierce. I think he's worthy of the 28 pick, no question. I think whoever games James Pierce, as long as they feel good about the player that they're getting, like as a person, you're getting a stud, dude. Like you're getting an absolute stud. And again, talk about smart. He's an incredibly smart player on the field, incredibly smart player, right? So it's not like you're getting a guy that's like, oh man, he doesn't look like he knows what's going on, or he's not playing hard. Like it's none of those things. It's all the off the field buzz about him. But as a player on the field, yeah, he's fantastic. I think fantastic. And I think his concerns, another 3-year junior, a guy that's 245 pounds, like, you'd be concerned about his build, but man, he's another guy that plays with better play strength than that. So it's like, yeah, no, I think he's worth 28. I think he's absolutely worth 28. I remember my thing was my thing with him was the kind of the like how high is the ceiling type of deal, right? But I think he's gonna hit it pretty fast. And I think he's gonna click fast. Like James Pierce, I think could be a year 1 9 sack type of guy. Especially if you had him opposite of Hutch because of what Hutch already is. He could be 9 sacks year 1. Like that dude has potential to go crazy immediately. I can see the hitting fast, bro. You get him with a good D line coach, I think him cooking. Seems quiet. He barely does interviews. Hey, that's I'm cool with those dudes. He could definitely be quiet. I got no issues. I don't know how Lions feel about that. No issues with dudes being quiet. You know what I mean? I guess is that the opposite of Za'Darius? Za'Darius is pretty loud, dude. I feel like Za'Darius is pretty loud. I heard a draft show say Savon Jones might have the heaviest hands in the whole class. I don't know, but this guy would be difficult to play against. Yeah, he's like a dude. Dude is like a rock, bro. Dude is like a rock. Like when he gets hit, it's like you're running into a brick wall, literally. I mean, he needs to polish that up though, because there's too often where it feels like, yeah, he's super powerful, but man, he's not holding his ground, or he's not in a position where he can actually make a play, or he's just missing tackles. But yeah, that dude is He's built so weird. It's like he's super. I mean, he's a heavy player. He looks like a heavy dude. Then he starts moving, and you're like, oh, hey, he moves pretty good. He's pretty heavy, but he moves pretty darn good. That was exciting about Savon, man. That's what pops too, especially when you see him like outmatch bad offensive linemen. He goes crazy. Now you see him against better offensive linemen, he gets quiet. He gets quiet. So that's where you kind of like know, all right, there's things here that kind of got to come together. But when he outmatches teams, man, he cooks. All right. Job Joyner time. Job Joyner. So I considered putting Job Joyner on this list. I didn't put him on here. Johnny Walker is better. I'm done. Gone. Okay, Matthew was going crazy in the chat. Oh my gosh. Matthew, look, man. He's gonna be on the rankings. I got you on the rankings. I don't know if he's gonna get drafted. I'll be honest with you. I don't know. I don't know if he's gonna get drafted. He'll be on the rankings though. Run the ball. Okay, I see you run the ball. What's up, man? I see you. Yeah. Okay. He'll be on the rankings though. Like I got you. Ethan Downs. I had Ethan Downs on one of our sleepers, so I didn't want to put him back on here. I had him on one of. I don't know which one it was, but we did a sleeper thing recently. I threw him on that list. So I was like, all right, I don't want to throw him in here. I don't want to do that. But yeah, okay. So yeah, I had to save some names. You know what I mean? I couldn't give you all the ammo today. I couldn't go through 20 players. I mean, I had to save some for the rankings when they drop. Pierre may not, and again, he may not be on the Lions board. Again, that's something that I don't know. Like I'm not going to speculate. I have no idea. My assumption would be if they feel like there's potential character concerns, and that's what people feel about around the league, they won't draft him because they don't seem to do that kind of thing. So character comes first, right? That is what it is. I'm just telling you what I see as a player. As a player, I think he's outstanding. I think he's an outstanding player. So as long as a player, that's what I can tell you. I think he's an outstanding player. We'll see how it all plays out, but that's kind of where I'm at with it. That's why it's also a little different too, because when you do things like this, it's like, so for like if I do the interior offensive line rankings, if I ranked interior offensive linemen just for the Lions, it wouldn't look like the list that I put together. There'd be differences to it because certain guys, I'm like, it doesn't really fit the Lions, right? So that would change things because of like what we need or what fits stylistically. Try not to focus too much on that because a lot of that to me is just kind of projecting things. And ultimately, like I said, the predictive mock draft will be that. The predictive mock draft at the end, when we get like right up to the draft, that I'll just be guessing on who I think the Lions are going to take. And we may do a couple of those. Like, I think we can, certain guys feel like Lions when you watch them, even if it's not my favorite. I'm like, all right, that guy kind of feels like a Lion. There was one yesterday, like Hugh Robinson does feel like a Lion, legit. Like, he feels like a Lion to me when I watch him. So he kind of fits both worlds. I like him a lot. I think he looks like a Lion. But there was another guy yesterday or a couple days ago. I don't remember who that was. Let me see if I can find it real quick. There was a guy a couple days ago. I was like, that dude kind of looks like he played for the Lions, but I don't remember who it was. I don't think I'm gonna remember. Not while we're live. I don't think I'm gonna remember. By the way, y'all saw the Isaiah Bond stuff. I did see that. That popped up on my X. I'm like, oh dang, that's not good. I was watching Isaiah Bond recently too, and I was like, man, I kind of like this guy. And then because I had him high early, and it was like, I still like this dude. And then that comes out, like, oh, that can't be good. It's like that's not going to help. Mondon Jr. We've had Mondon in a mock draft. We put him in one of those. I don't remember who it was. I don't remember. It wasn't Mondon. I don't remember. We'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. I'll remember at some point. Heard it for Scorton too. That name dominate local fantasy leagues. Scorton. Yeah, we could just call him Scorton. We just call him Scorton. That'll be our nickname. I think that's better. Hurting for Scorton is better than hurting for Scorton. Like, it doesn't make a ton of sense, but if we just change his name a little bit, that's fine. We could just be adaptive. Marcus Bowe. I don't know that Marcus Bowe is a Lions player. I don't know. I don't know that what he's best at is what the Lions are looking for. I like Marcus Bowe a lot. I just don't know that what he's best at is actually like stylistically with the Lions. I'm not saying that he couldn't work here. I'm just saying they might look for something a little bit different. I don't know though. Famous for one play, and I don't know what that play is, to be honest. I like Isaiah Bond. I think the dude can get after. I think he runs routes really well. I think he's a really good level 3 route runner. I think his level 1's a little bit underrated too. That guy can separate. He's a good slant route runner. I like him as a separator. I think he's good after the catch too. Now, you don't even see, I think, some of the juice. There's like him, like even when I watched him, I was like, I kept having back in my mind like what he said, like how fast he said he was gonna run. And I'm watching, like, I don't even know why he thought that. Like, I don't know why he thought that because he doesn't look that fast. But at the same time, that was like just a disappointment. And it's like, all right, this dude said he was about to go crazy and he didn't go crazy. I still like watching him play though. Isaiah Bond is I like his game. Torrey Horton seems like a Lions guy. I could see that. Can't wait for Brad to shock us all. It's gonna be awesome per usual. It's always gonna be amazing. It's always gonna be amazing. I think we're tapping on a lot of dudes, pause on that. But I think we're hitting on a lot of guys this year, which is putting it kind of all together. You know what I mean? We're putting a lot of guys. So we're gonna have something on whoever we take. And we're gonna see. I don't know how we're even gonna end up doing the draft this year. There's a chance I might be at the draft this year. Based on how this is set up, I may be in Green Bay for the draft this year. So I don't know what shows are gonna look like. But if that's the case, it should be amazing. That's why we got to get that prep done early, though. You know what I mean? We got to be prepared for what happens. I guess the Lions had a visit with the Isaac Tesla guy out of Arkansas. If it's out of Arkansas, then there you go, Isaac Tesla. Isaac Tesla's a dog, bro. Hey, yo, they should, dog. You know what I mean? They should, bro. Isaac Tesla's tough. And PFF just moved him up on their board, so they know. You know what I mean? They're finding out. Well, they may not know, but they're finding out. They're finding out, like, okay, this guy's kind of good. Josiah Stewart had 3 visits lines. My numbers right now. Josiah Stewart's fantastic. I think it's gonna be interesting where he goes, like how high someone pushes him up, though, because we are in a weird spot where, like, I almost feel like you might have to just trade up to go get that guy. Like, I think if you sit back, you're gonna be risking losing him. He's that good of a rusher, and you're almost like hoping that teams don't take him because of the way that he's built. But, like, man, a guy, there's teams that are smart enough to just be like, yo, that dude goes and gets it after it. If we just sit with one of these picks, we're not getting him because teams are going to anticipate we're trying to get a rusher. I think if they got a guy like Josiah Stewart, they'd have to jump up to go get him somewhere. Maybe that's round 3. I think they definitely have to jump up there in round 3. But even round 2, they might have to just go a couple spots just to make sure that that's their pick. Unless they take him at 28, that'd be something, wouldn't it? Hey, you always got to, like, I don't think it would happen, but you always keep your eyes open. Like, they take him at 28. There you go, bro. That would shake things up. That's the kind of Lions thing they would do. Be like, we're taking this dude at 28. Be like, oh, snap. Like, well, he is really good as a rusher. Yeah, we had Ashton Gillotte on here today. We had him today in kind of our list of players. We had Gillotte on here. I haven't seen anything in terms of connected to the Lions wise. But we did put him in here. I'm okay on him. I'm not super high on him. I don't think I'm as high as the rest, but I there's parts of the game. Yeah, I say he reminds me of Jonah Ellis. Reminds me of that kind of style. He's one of the guys that has a sub 7-second 3-cone drill, which is cool. Stewart to Baltimore. It's crazy how Denzel Burkstock fell. That dude was, man, that dude is gonna go really. They always get guys like that though. I feel like they always get, especially at corner. Especially at corner. Like it always feel like Ohio State corners fall, bro. Or you'll get a team like the Raiders that'll reach and take one. But like those dudes seem to fall, man. Last couple of years, there's a ton of DNs in this class gonna be value late just because the stock is so high, right? Feel like there's a ton of for Josiah Stewart, gonna be a value because stock is so high. Yeah, man. Like I don't know. Right? That's what makes it weird though, because we don't know where dudes are gonna go. So if they took someone real high, that most people think is too high, I wouldn't be shocked. Because, like, bro, that's that's what the Lions will do, man. They will get their dude. They think that's their dude. Shoot, take him at 28. I'm not even mad at it, bro. I'm not even mad at it, because when we look back 2 years from now, if the dude's a great pass rusher, you'd be like, oh, well, we got a need, and he's really good at what he does. We shouldn't have overthought this. All right. That said, I'm gonna leave it here. I got to go finish up something for BR, and then continue to finish up the end of this edge rusher stuff. So I'm gonna leave it here, man. I appreciate y'all joining. I don't know what to look forward to exactly. I think we're trying to set a mock draft up for early next week, like a live one. We'll see if that happens. Outside of that, though, like the rankings, and then maybe at worst we'll do some kind of mock draft this weekend. I want to do another one, so maybe we get like some other live one we can get together. But I definitely want to jump some of those, get those going again. Tez Johnson, Cook Burke, bad against Oregon. Where's Tez Johnson going to go? How high is Tez Johnson going to go? That'll be an interesting one, too. Taco time? Man, I wish it was taco time. Not even a lot, man. I wish it was taco time straight up. I don't know if you're talking about the food. Man, that sounds good. Oh, you having tacos. That's what you're doing. Dog. I feel like all I've eaten is chicken like the last 3 days, bro. Chicken's fine, but it's some point, bro, you're like, I need to change this up. I was on a run right there for a little bit. Like, this is all I'm gonna eat. And then it's like, yeah, I'm doing too much. This is starting to get whack. Starting to get whack. All right. But yeah, we'll address these edge rushers here soon, and then we'll move from there. And maybe that's corner. I would love to do corner rankings because corners would be fun. There's so much mess with corner, bro. Corners would be fun. Corners would be all over the place too for me. I would love to do that. I have to stay up yet though. Oh man. All right. Well, yeah. Hey. Okay, real quick announcement. April 17th. Yeah, April 17th. Next, is that Thursday? Next Thursday. We're doing a live mock draft. This is something to look forward to. A live mock draft on Bleacher Report. Now I know what you're thinking. Okay, I'm just doing a mock draft. No. This might also be on their YouTube channel. This is our creator mock. We did it last year. I took Rakes Raw 28. Creator mock, April 17th. It's going to be massive. It's going to be like 3-4 hours. It's going to be like a real round one. It's going to be fire. I'm going to be on there 4 times. I think it's 6. Let me get I have the details right. Let me pull them up because I got to do something for them real quick. Those are crazy. There's going to be trades this year. I don't know how that's going to work though because it has to happen before. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to like actually trade. I'm hoping to trade up. I'm in conversation. I just haven't. I'll be honest, little sneak peek. I haven't pulled anything off yet, but I'm trying. All right, I'm trying to make something happen. Trying to make something shake if I can. I just haven't been able to, as Rad would say. I just haven't been able to make anything shake, man. I'm just taking swings. It just ain't happening. But I'm okay. Let me find the exact date or time. It's April 17th. Here, let me just do this. Oh snap! That's not what I meant. What? Okay. Here we go. I got it. April 17th, 4 to 7 p.m. Eastern time. 4 p.m. Eastern. Okay, so it's 3 hours. And I'm going to be on the screen multiple times because I got to react to all the other division picks. And everybody has a pick this year, which is pretty cool. So yeah, April 17th, 4 to 7 p.m. Eastern time. So we'll probably be picking closer to 6. Something like that. 6 or 6:30. We'll be picking towards the back end, but their production is crazy for these, bro. They have like dudes in studio. They have the big board behind them. They have highlights. It's nasty. It's a crazy production they put together. So definitely, if you can make any portion of that, you should. I remember showing clips from it last year, bro. That thing is fire. That's like the real draft, bro. And you get nervous too. Like I be getting nervous doing that thing, but it's fire, bro. I'm pumped for that. Okay. So yeah, let me go knock this out and stay tuned for that, man. If the best way, just download the app. Just download the app. If you're following the NFL, if you're following the Lions, honestly, you're following probably anything NFL related, draft related, you'll find it. I'm sure 4 p.m. because it's gonna be that big. It might be on their YouTube too as well. All right, I'm out of here. Appreciate you joining. 4 p.m. Eastern time, April 17th. Download the BR app. Check us out there. But earlier, you can check us out Monday, 6 p.m. Eastern time. I'll be back over here. We out.